Welcome to Wooden Spoon Data, the 18th best AFL content on YouTube. Today, you're here with myself and Kris. Kris actually only has a couple more weeks with us before he has to go off, so we've got to enjoy his statistical brilliance while we've got him. Um, but no, it's good to have you again, Kris. And yeah, let's get into the games, mate.
Yeah,
Um,
let's do it.
First off, did you get much of a chance to watch much this week?
Yeah, I think I caught most of the games. I missed a
Good.
couple on Saturday, but other than that, I think most of them.
Good. That's what you want to see.
Yourself?
I'm fairly similar. I didn't get much on the Giants Lions, and I missed a little bit on the Kangaroos and Crows, but otherwise I was pretty across it. Getting into the first one, we've got Richmond versus Melbourne. Now, in case you didn't see, I got the chance to jump on Footy Abroad, St Kilda or Saints TV, and Swoop Luke's Cross channel on Tuesday. I put the call out that potentially Richmond might win this game, and I was sorely mistaken. Uh, Look, they looked competitive for the first half, and yeah, it looked like there was the possibility of an upset there. But Melbourne went on to kick 10-2 to the Tigers 2-6, winning 85-82. Um, yeah, I mean, do you have any takeaways from this game first?
Yeah, pretty much just that. Like Richmond's sort of competitive, but I just don't think they have the power to match it with like a side like Melbourne, especially. Melbourne's looking pretty good. They just seem to be cruising.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I found that looking over the stats afterwards that they didn't get much from their wings and half forward flanks. Mansell, Campbell, and Banks combined for 11 disposals in the second half when they fell away. So just not good enough. In general, individually, Mansell had 11 disposals at 54%, one tackle mark and score involvement. Uh, Campbell was 7 disposals at 57%, two tackles, three marks, two score involvement, and Banks was 12 at 75% with three tackles, four marks, and zero score involvement. So it's just kind of not good enough for your outside players and the players that are leading the forward line, right? Like they're getting that final kick into the forward line. So it's where they fell apart. Their score wasn't enough, and those players kind of didn't get the output that is required. So yeah, for me, they need more on their outside. Their outside runners just didn't supply where inside wasn't the worst. Melbourne did find 7 goals from their inclusions, two from Pickett, two from Bailey Laurie, and then three from fourth gamer Daniel Turner. Is this like an answer to their forward line issues?
I don't think it's an answer. No, like
No.
they've been playing around for a long time, haven't they? Like it's been plug and play. Like Melksham came in there for a while and he looked really good before he's got injuries, ACL.
Yep.
Like Ben Brown's been in and out, and sometimes he looks good, sometimes he doesn't. But like they
He was
always seem to
excluded
fall
this
back to the
week.
same old problems. Yeah,
Yeah. No, you're bang on in my opinion as well. Like while we got great returns from these players, Pickett's notorious for either getting a few or nothing. In terms of Bailey Laurie, he's just very young. I mean, he's got 7 games at this point. And yeah, I just don't think you can expect that sort of return from him every time. And likewise with Daniel Turner, he was a fourth gamer, mostly a defender behind everybody they've got there. So he was never going to get a game, and they've thrown him forward. He's done well in the VFL, from what I can understand. But yeah, unlikely to get 3 goals from him every game. So for me, it's just not an answer. It's a good result and potentially gives them like things to hope for, but it's just not an exact answer.
do you know if Shane McAdams far off? I sort
I
of
don't
thought he was
know
supposed to be back
actually.
by
No.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, from what I understand, he was it was a preseason injury, wasn't it?
I'm just reading an article here saying he was poised for an Anzac Day Eve debut. So
Yep.
maybe he's real close because he didn't
Yeah.
play this
Okay.
week. But
Yeah. Hopefully he's back soon. He would be very helpful for them. They do need a
yeah,
little
it'd
bit
be
of.
good inclusion, surely.
Yeah. Their forward line. I mean, honestly, Billings has done all right for what he's been brought in to do. But yeah, he'd be a massive improvement. So they do have spots that could be improved upon. I suppose, yeah, you've had some thoughts about their potential future in terms of Richmond. Um, what are they, mate?
I'm just like looking towards Richmond and like Liam Baker. I'm thinking if he leaves, like what do they have left? I feel like they could be like just set up for a lot more years of this mediocre football.
Yep, yep. I mean, there's similar questions around Shy Bolton. I mean, I think he signed more recently. But if he weren't to stay around for the full term, I mean, that's a problem. And even then, like, is he enough?
I haven't heard the Shy Bolton one. So where's he? Is he looking like he might not be there?
Um, Shy Bolton potentially last year had more whispers from memory that he might
Yeah,
have signed. But yeah, I mean, he looks like their longest term prospect in terms of potentially losing Baker. I mean, I don't know about Martin. Who knows?
he probably retires at the end of the year. You'd think.
Maybe goes to Gold Coast. I mean, I think
Yeah,
you probably lose Lynch at the end of the year too. Dylan Grimes is a good chance to retire as well. So
but what's Lynch's contract?
I think he might have one more year left. But I mean, if your body's not up to it, you might just give it up. Who knows?
Yeah,
Uh, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't see him going up to
7 year
Gold Coast.
deal in 2018. So
I mean, yeah, it's pretty much one more year after this. So yeah, it's coming to an end, their era. But who knows what happens going forward. Look, I suppose going to the next match, your team, mate, Essendon versus Collingwood. What was, yeah, one of the matches of probably the year, not even the round.
yeah, I thought it
Um,
was a great match to watch. Great match.
Incredible. I think we've got an early mark of the year almost guarantee there. Um, yeah, it
It
just
would take a very good mark to beat it. It was crazy.
it would. I
Jamie
saw
Elliott just
something.
flying high.
He was. I saw something from is it Ben? Yeah, it's Ben McKay. He was he was reading the paper at his cafe spot the next day, and he's like, "Oh, just what you want to see on the back page." So yeah, no, I think he took it in good stead, but he definitely was a good step ladder, that's for sure.
He's a
Yeah,
big boy, and like I watched it back on replay, and it doesn't look like his hand actually touches him. Like
no,
it's very close, and it sort of touches
it's
his shoulder, but don't think he gets any
hover.
push out of it though. Yeah,
No, I don't think so either. I thought it was mostly just hovering there as a little guide, and maybe he touched it for a second, but it was like
yeah.
minimal.
Caught,
It was
caught, caught his shoulder so good with his leg. It just
just that
yeah,
extra ride. It was amazing.
great
No,
match.
what a mark. Yeah, look, other than that, we saw, yeah, the second draw in Anzac history. Went to Merritt with 30 disposals, 80%, three tackles, eight marks, and 10 score involvements. Pretty incredible match from Merritt. Do you have anybody that kind of came in second place to him, from either Essendon or Collingwood?
Like yeah, I didn't know. I thought it was pretty even. Like there was no clear standout for the medal. I thought Zach was very deserving, but if Collingwood won, I probably would have went Darcy Moore. I thought Darcy Moore
Yeah,
was huge
he
for repelling
was.
us. And like
Yeah, and
I think Langford was probably the closest from Essendon.
yeah, I mean, Langford went amazing, and towards the end might have even won it. I had some things gone your way.
Just
Um,
missed that set shot.
yeah, a bit unfortunate there, but yeah, an amazing game from him too. Look, I mean, Essendon did lose three goals from their kick-ins, from end to end. It's the first time they've happened this season to Essendon. Um, yeah, just moments of lapses of concentration there, and I think if Collingwood didn't potentially go 2-6 in the first quarter and then only go 4 from 9 in the next to still be down by a point, potentially they do get over the line. But Essendon, all credit to them, they really showed why they deserve to get that 2 points. They were really good throughout the match. Yeah, mate. Any sort of takeaways yourself?
Nah, pretty well summed up. I thought the draw was probably worthy. Both teams had a chance to win it, but yeah,
Yep.
it was
Yeah, very
a
tight
good
match.
game. It's a
Yeah,
good game.
amazing match.
Still not sure
Now
what to think of Essendon.
yeah, look, it's hard to say. I think Essendon, it's difficult. It's difficult to see long term. But they've got some matches to kind of decide their future soon, so we'll see that. Um, but yeah, moving on to the next one with Giants versus Lions. A close first half, but there on out, the Giants just dominated, kicking 10-7 to the Lions 2-3, winning 113 to 59. Now, I've got some stats here. In the second half, the Lions just weren't there, right? Neil only had 8 disposals, 1 mark, and 0 tackles. Dunkley had 5 disposals, 1 mark, and 4 tackles, majority of that coming in the third quarter. The only really person that waved the flag was McCluggage with 14 disposals, 1 tackle, 1 mark. For comparison, Tom Green had 14 disposals, 1 tackle, and 0 marks in just the third quarter alone. And GWS, most of their mids replicated McCluggage's second half efforts. I mean, they dominated. And I suppose from here, it's for me, it's have the Lions missed the window? Is it potentially not possible at this point, despite how good they are? Like, don't get me wrong, they're a very good side,
And,
but
and
with
that's
the
the
sides
thing.
they've
Like
got to verse, can they actually do it?
their next four, they've got the Suns at home, the Crows away, Richmond at home, and Hawks away.
Yeah.
Can they win 4 from 4 there? Do you think? What's the worst they could do?
I mean, honestly, if they don't win 4 from 4, there's kind of questions. If they went 50, like if they won half of it, there'd be serious questions. At this
At
point,
two
I
and
mean,
two, that'd make them 4-7 before their
they
bye.
they they can't make top four at that point.
Nah, you'd say not.
And
But I could also see them just winning every game from here on out. They
I
have
mean,
got a good
potentially
side. Like
they're not bad, but it's just, can they only beat the sides outside the top four or top
well, I
eight
think I
maybe?
think
But
history's proven that they can beat anyone. They just need to find their form.
maybe I think there's the potential that this is probably the last hurrah in some regards, and with that, I mean, I just can't see them getting significantly better with years going forward. So I wonder what they need to be a premiership threat again. Do you
Well,
think it's
where do they get
a midfield?
worse?
Well, their midfield is just not there. I mean, in terms of um, what they did in the second half. I mean, Neil's been down this year.
Been
Um,
down, yeah, but
Dunkley's
is it not there, or is it
Dunkley's
just
down.
like having bad form?
That's the question long term. I mean, but if they do miss almost any games from the next four, there's fair questions in my opinion. Um, and at that point, it's all, if they only go 50% from the next month, they probably don't make top four. And if they can't make top four, I wonder if they have enough to make even the grand final.
Be a
So
lot of games away from Brisbane, wouldn't it?
it would, and I just don't know if they've got it in them. With the age profile of some of their more experienced and better players. Look, before we kind of move on to other things, Kris, do we have any do we have any final thoughts?
Nah, just the Giants cruised along. Nice game to beat Brisbane without arguably like two of their three best players, surely. in Toby Green and Sam Taylor. I
Yeah,
think they've only going to go up from here, and I think they'll definitely be contesting the finals pretty hard.
definitely, definitely. Look, we'll see. Um, I think the Giants have got a couple to come back with. Green and Hogan, or maybe not both of them. But yeah, they've got at least one to come back, and
And Taylor,
yeah, yeah, and potentially Taylor too. So yeah, they definitely get better from here. Look, we'll take a little look into the media watch at this point.
The media, Kris?
We're into Andy Brayshaw and what was said to him in the end of match presser. Um, it was with Ryan Daniels with Channel 7. He essentially comes to him, he says, you come out in that derby and you get punched in the face
punched in
by a
the
young
face.
West Coast Eagles team. How do you turn it around in the space of a week?
Yeah, it's pretty
It
harsh.
wasn't great.
Pretty
It
harsh. Not
it
smart.
it was tone deaf in terms of like I don't know if you saw Andy Brashaw's face then, but I think he thought it was referring to the incident in which he got punched into the face.
Yeah,
So for me, it was like, oh, like maybe if it didn't immediately, like if he didn't immediately think that was what was being said, maybe you kind of get away with it in some regards. But yeah, he's come out, Daniels, the journo, and said, "Yep, not my best. Poor choice of words." Was referring to the Derby and being shell shocked by the underdog West Coast. Now, I mean that's pretty clear when you hear it all. It's just how he kind of phrased it, and I think he caught himself too. With you get punched in the face by a young West Coast team. It's just that little pause in between that really did him no favors there. So yeah, that's the media watch. You just got to be a little bit more careful. Yeah. Otherwise, we're gonna move into who's that footballer. Enjoy it.
Who's that?
Footballer.
It's
Jason Ackermanis.
And we're back with Akka. And who's that footballer, mate? Do you have a memory of Akka, like a favorite memory?
ah, it has to be the handstands. That was
I
when I
I
was
mean,
I was a
yeah,
kid. Yeah,
definitely. I do my favorite one is that like sliding kick on the boundary, and he just turns to everybody and goes like
hand over the
that.
face. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was gold. That's probably my favorite Aka moment. But yeah, loved Jason Ackermanis when I was quite young, and yes, he's a great who's that footballer. Moving on to a game I probably don't want to talk about all that much, but it's St Kilda versus Port. Look, Port held on despite the injuries. They probably could have won much earlier if they'd kicked straight in the first quarter, but St Kilda did make a reasonable effort to make it a contest. And look respectable in the long term. Darcy Wilson looks more comfortable each week, but St Kilda, if they're not kicking over 70 points, if their opponent kicks over 70 points, they've won 5 and lost 16 over the last, I believe it's 2 seasons. Um, Look, breakout game for Jace Burgoyne at 28 disposals, 67% efficiency, 4 tackles, 8 marks, 7 score involvements. Before we get on to Port, St Kilda, because they're my team, what are we missing, in your opinion? What do we think St Kilda needs? Is it something they can address with players that they're missing, or is this something that requires a list overhaul? Where are you at? What do you think about St Kilda?
Like personally, I think it's top end talent. It's just there's just not enough there. You've got some good players, like for instance Jack Steele, who's a very very good player when he's on. But if he goes missing, who replaces him? Like you've got no one else to step up and
Yep.
fill that gap really,
Yep.
aside from Sinclair, I'd say.
I think Crouch is close but he is injured at the
Cr-
moment. Um,
Crouch isn't a superstar, I don't think. He's not that
mm,
star power you need.
No, but he's definitely better than say Ross, or somebody of that ilk. So
Is
I
he though?
guess
There's not much difference in my mind.
I think he's just better at centre clearances, and St Kilda's so desperate for it that it kind of gives him the leg up. But yeah, it is that for me also top end talent. When St Kilda's on, it's because their younger players look like superstars. Um,
Yeah,
it's because Mitch Owens kicks 4 or 3 and he takes spectacular marks, either getting it into the forward line or kicking the goal himself. And it's those moments with King, with an extraction from the middle from a young kid that really makes St Kilda look good. So I agree. It's their top end. It's that really that bracket that defines you as a team, and they've got all the lower end. They just don't have much above.
where
And
are you with Max King? Like,
in
are
some
you losing
regards,
hope?
I wouldn't say I'm losing hope because he definitely produces results for St Kilda, whether it's for himself or others. He's so hard to stop that he requires a focal point. I think that if St Kilda's to improve, they've got to stop just bombing it into him, hoping that because he's 200 centimeters and can put his arms up at 250 and then jump an extra 20, that he's going to mark it. Like
But
it's
he
not
needs to get on
enough.
the park. That's the problem, isn't it? Like,
Maybe. I
is he
mean,
back this week?
he sh- should be, yeah. He just missed last week. So you'd assume he is. Steele's looking a bit down as well. He was strapped on the knee this week where he wasn't the week before. There was suggestions he was talking to the medicos throughout the week and had some choice words. So I think there's niggles at St Kilda, which means their top players aren't going to be producing superstar levels, and there's not many people to step up. You've seen good results from maybe Winhager in some regards, Nazai Wanguni, Malera, Owens in some regards, but it's not enough. It's not every week, and it's not going to get them over the line. There needs to be more. It comes from finding a back pocket that can really lock down the smalls that start to get the ground balls that St Kilda can't handle. It's replacing either Dougal Howard or Zane Cordy with a solid fullback. You could have one of them as a backup, but you probably don't need to be playing one of them each week. From there, they need a solid midfielder that helps steal. At his worst, gets down to sort of a crouched level when he's got that niggle, that sort of thing. So they need a few more bits and pieces before they're really see results. And I don't think, while I think this might be a year to not worry about results and maybe even in some regards tank, and get the best pick you can. I think it's get a fullback, get a midfielder. If that's McCluggage, if that's whoever it is, you get them and you say, hey, we're only a couple of players off. We've got good kids. We can be there soon. You need to sell the dream at this point because St Kilda's not going to do it this year, and I don't think they're far off, but they need a bit more. Looking at Port, they've lost a couple of players out of this match. Um, they are about to go into the Derby and Derby. What do they say in Adelaide? I'm not sure.
Derby,
Um,
yeah, Derby.
yeah, I can't quite remember. But is it going to hurt them? I mean,
It's
for
the
me,
showdown,
I
isn't it?
think,
It's the showdown.
in fact, it is. I think
Yeah,
the showdown. So yeah, is it going to hurt them? Is Rosie, Sam Powell Pepper, is
a
that
little,
going to
yeah.
be? Yeah, yeah,
I,
a bit too much.
I haven't heard anything about Rosie. Does he miss?
From what I've heard, they've called it a low hamstring,
Low grade,
low
yeah.
grade hamstring. So he's like 2 to 3 weeks.
Ali will be in
Um,
concussion protocols, so he misses,
yeah,
and the
and
worst for
ACL for Sam
Power
Powell Pepper,
Pepper.
so he's gone for the season.
I
Um,
think Power Pepper's a massive loss. I really do. I think like more so what he brings by being who he is than what he does on the football field. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think he's a great defensive role in their forward line. Really,
and
really holds it in.
I think other players stand taller having him around. Like he's just real
Yep,
like team orientated. It's like a Braden Maynard.
yep, yep.
I
I
think it's a
agree.
big loss for him. Big loss.
It'll be hard, I think, from them. I actually, early into our tips before we say it, end of this recording. But yeah, I've actually got the Crows getting up this week with those injuries. Look, yeah, I mean, I liked Port's movement. They could have won the game early. It's hard to say as a St Kilda fan, but they looked good across most lines. Look, moving on to the next game, we've got the Kangas versus Crows. I wanted to quickly touch on something that we normally wouldn't discuss much in this world of our data stuff, but in terms of betting, the Kangas' next two best options to win are this week against St Kilda, where they've got 6 to 1 odds, and then at round 13, where they've got 750 to 1 odds. Um, After that, their next best results for the year is 10 to 1 to go winless for the season. Should they win, should they lose to St Kilda and West Coast, is a winless season a real possibility in your opinion?
Nah, I don't think so. They'll find a win,
What
surely. Like everyone always finds a win or two.
that's
They'll win. They'll win. They'll win a game.
say this too often, right? Like every year or two, we have a team that we think potentially
Yeah.
could go winless. Heck, I
If
think
you
it was
ever
the
get to
years.
about round 7 without someone winning a game, you're like, oh, but what if they don't win a game? It's like they always win a game.
Yeah, I think it was the year that St Kilda made the finals and won against the Bulldogs, that David King called St Kilda to go winless for the year. So I
Yeah.
remember giving him uh, a little bit of stuff online for that. Um, Otherwise, Kingy's I love him. I do love his stuff. Um, Looking into it, I suppose. Yeah. Do you like what you saw? Did you get to see much of this game?
Not at all. Nothing.
No. Okay. Well, look, I got to see very minimal bits and pieces. I was kind of a bit all over the place with that one, but I just kind of I saw getting out early, and I figured I didn't need to put all my attention into it. Um, yeah. In the end, kind of what you expect from them. I mean, in terms of the Kangaroos, not really a strong result there. Um, we've heard
They're a worry.
whispers. Yeah, I was going to say we've heard whispers of Cam Zerha potentially leaving due to his comments pre-season. And like you look at their the sheet we get from Andrew Whelan here, they had for the game 36% in forward half. That was 26 at quarter time, 33 at halftime, 53 where they actually, I mean, they didn't win the quarter by score at all, but they held their own in terms of um, positional for the ball. Otherwise, they just didn't really do much. I mean, their best positional game was in the third quarter where they got their least scores. I mean, their score from general play was definitely, I mean, a little bit higher, but you would have thought most of it came from the turnover then, but it really it didn't. So I mean, for me, you got to start wondering about them. Like, where are they going to score long term? Larky's not going to stick around forever if this keeps up. I mean, Zerha's already expressed interest of potentially not, and LDU has put contract talks on hold. It's starting to get worrisome for them, for me.
I think it's
What
past that. It's already worrisome. It's been worrisome for a while. I think
I guess,
last year when Ben
yeah,
Mackay left and they didn't replace him, like they replaced him with some SANFL player who, like, they
yeah,
needed to be a bit
and
better.
Big and Ewan, and Yeah, and a
Why not
draftee
draft
in Will
Curtin?
Dawson.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they got Dawson, but like they've barely played him, and I mean he's looked okay in some regards, but how good can you look in that defense? I mean they've sort of found one in Comben. They seem to have found a spot for him. He wasn't working in the forward line. He seems to be okay in defense, but I mean he needs help. Like there's there's so few shining lights there. And I think they've overpaid for so long for just basic players. I mean, would you really give what a second round draft pick for Zach Zach Fisher?
No, not at all. Yeah,
No, I mean
terrible.
neither. And
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 Jared Pollock.
yep, I mean Pollock's from a while back, but you can even what was the other the player from Sydney that they picked up that Sydney just didn't want. They would take anything for him. Dylan
Stevens.
Stevens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
thought
mean,
Sydney did
he's
with
been
him.
not particularly. I mean, he's a top draft pick. They let him go for bugger all. Um, I don't know, man. I wonder where their team build is going because I just can't see it getting much better. Like their elder statesmen aren't great in what they've got in Simpkin and McDonald and those guys. They honestly, you look at some North boards and that they don't want McDonald even in the side. Um,
Yeah, it's tough, and I feel the same way about Simpkin. Like he hasn't really done anything for a while, and they sort of played him at half forward, threw him back in the midfield this week, but it didn't really seem to generate much for them.
no, and yeah, I just can't see much going forward. Look, Adelaide had some reasonable results there, but you know it's hard to take anything seriously away from that match. Did like Lockie Shoal, definitely stood up there. Do you think Adelaide can make a finals charge? Do you think it's possible?
It's definitely possible. They have to start winning a lot of games though. But yeah, I think it's more unlikely than likely. But
Yeah,
if they get a roll on, who knows? They do seem to show they have potency.
they've they've got players there. They just haven't shown it this year. That if they can start winning consistently, anything's possible. But yeah, I'm not going to sit there with bated breath. Moving on to the Cats versus Blues, we've got the Cats going 7-0 against the Blues. Jeremy Cameron probably best on ground with 5 goals, 17 disposals at 76%, 9 marked and 9 score involvements. He was floating all over the ground, um, just instrumental. Dangerfield is injured. It looks like it could be a fair few weeks, considering how he's dealt with hamstrings in the past. Otherwise, yeah, do we see that being a threat to them going forward, being the undefeated top dogs?
It's getting harder and harder to say they're not that top tier team. Like, do you have them in your top tier? Like, do you think they're
I
bona
think
fides?
they're
Who is your
pretty
top
much there.
top
I
two?
still think I still think GWS is top. Um, After GWS,
I suppose it's like Carlton, Collingwood, Geelong,
I probably
Melbourne.
have like Cats, Carlton, and Collingwood sitting roughly the same spot these
Yeah,
days.
that's top
So
tier then, I guess. Yeah.
they're pretty close, if not there. Look, a few injuries could clearly knock them off. They're not the most stable depth wise, but yeah, they look good. We'll see what happens with Dangerfield out. It could tell us, where they are, where they're at with depth.
But
The
he's only
Blues
just
did
got
come.
back and they were still winning.
That's true. That is true. That being said, yeah, the Blues came back from 33 points down in the last quarter. If not having missed the first 3 shots and then having 4 goals kicked on them straight in that last quarter, I think this could be quite different. Um, do you think they are a real premiership threat? Am I assessing them right in my judgment?
Yeah, I think they're definitely got the bona fides to have a real crack at it. I liked Voss's response after the game, where he's like, "This isn't good enough." Because
Yeah,
like they did play well, they did put up a fight, but if you want to be the best, you've got to. They gave themselves a chance to win, and they should have taken it.
bang on. I agree. And they were very close to getting it done. Look, any takeaways from the game before we move on, mate?
Nah, let's move on.
Fair. Look, we'll get into the Sharon shenanigans.
Have a look at this. Great shot of something not so good. Bang!
So yeah, this week's Sharon shenanigan. I don't know if you've got one better than me, mate, but Josh Rochelli's nutmeg on Bailey Scott. Chef's kiss. Amazing.
I didn't see it.
It was great. If you get a moment, definitely watch it back, or maybe just watch this video back because we'll put it inside there. But yeah, great little highlight there. Now, look, if you don't have another one, we'll get on to this week's unsung hero.
The first to pitch in are those unsung heroes.
So yeah, this week's unsung hero for me. I believe this is our first losing unsung hero. I think you pointed that out. Brady Hoff. I like him. I just like him. I've liked most of his games. In some regards, I've thought about putting him in contention for the rolling AA, but I don't think he's quite at that level. I do think he deserves some chocolates, though. So, yeah, I like him. What about yourself, mate?
I wanted to mention that it was good to see Willem Drew win the medal for the Port St Kilda game. I think he's an unsung hero of the last year or two. He's definitely been going strong.
I
But
mean,
for this week, it was
Mhm.
Cam Guthrie. Cam Guthrie, I thought, had a return from injury, very
Okay.
solid game.
Yeah, okay, yeah, definitely. I saw actually that Champion Data seems to think Zach Guthrie is the most underrated player in the league at the moment. Not sure how they
Zach,
come to that
well,
stat. Yeah, Zach
yeah,
Guthrie.
yeah,
So yeah, I have no idea how they come about that number,
it's a
but
strange one. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to Freo Dogs. Freo bounce back. After a bad loss last week, Freo had a good win. Fife had his first 30-plus disposal match in 2 years. He got 37 disposals at 73% disposal efficiency, 4 tackles, 3 marks, 10 score involvements. Sarong actually joined him with 37 disposals, very similar numbers, 81% efficiency, 4 tackles as well, 1 less in 2 marks, and 2 less in 8 score involvements. They really ran the show in the midfield in this match, and yeah, I was impressed. Do you have any thoughts, mate?
yeah. I thought it was a good game by them. I'm really not sure where to put the Dogs though. I feel like they're not really at the point where they beat Fremantle at home.
Yeah, I think this brings into question the exact same questions that have been there for the Dogs for a little while now. Um, Look, I guess we'll finish off with Freo now before touching on the Dogs more. Um, yeah, I like the performance from Banfield. Kicked 2 goals in the final 10 minutes to seal the game. Debutant Cooper Simpson did some nice things. Probably deserves a few more games. And yeah, other than Fife and if he can keep it up, the one I want to know if he can keep it up is Josh Tracy. Mate, he looked good. I don't know if I've ever said that about Josh Tracy. I'm gonna be
yeah,
honest.
he had huge game, took some big marks, but yeah, I don't know. Can he do that regularly? I have my
I don't know.
doubts, but
I tend to agree. I've not ever seen that sort of result from Tracy, in my opinion. Could be wrong.
yeah,
I don't watch many Freo games to be honest over the last few years, but I'm watching more. Um, yeah, I guess for me, are those two the sort of different makers, Fife and Tracy? Like if they get a solid full forward and that one more midfielder that really kind of gets going each game, is that going to be enough to get Freo into the finals?
they're right on the mark. I don't know if they should be contending for it. I thought their first 3 weeks was really, really good. It was just,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
even their first 5 weeks, their 2 losses weren't weren't embarrassing until the West Coast loss, and they're
Yeah,
bounced
that was
back.
the only real bad one, and they've come back and shown good stuff. Look, the Dogs. In terms of them, I did like Darcy. He continues to show why he probably should keep his spot over Lob when Ugelhagen comes back. Um, I think it's a really important match in both teams' season. Uh, like in terms of the Dogs, they're going to need those matches if they want to make eight. And Freo needs to get those matches to get the respect back and then potentially make finals. So I think both teams it was an important match. I wonder is it more important for either side? I tend to lean more towards Western Bulldogs with the issues they've had in coaching and off field.
I guess you would call it an 8-point game because they're both sort of aiming for the same sort of positions at the end of the year. So
Yeah.
yeah, big game, huge for Freo to win it. I'm not sure who it would have been
It is.
more important for.
Yeah, it's a tough call. Look, let's move on to the next game. We've got Suns versus Eagles. I got to watch a fair bit of this game. I was pretty impressed with the Eagles yet again. What was your thoughts, mate?
I thought they were efficient. They were quite good going forward, but I do feel like the Suns were just sort of flexed on them a little bit. They seem to have a lot of the momentum for most of the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, until halftime, it was very close. I mean, they led by 3 points at halftime. And then got ahead with the first goal to Jamie Cripps. From there, yeah, they didn't do much in the second half. They kicked an extra 5 goals and 1 point, and they were very accurate today with 12. And then yeah, from halftime, you compare that to 10 goals and 5 points. So they didn't hold on, but they looked all right. And again, I liked Brady Hoff. I liked Jake Waterman. I liked a few players. Yeah. What did you think of them? Like, did you think it's enough to, I guess, get over the line with maybe Harley Reid or not?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, what difference would he have made? I reckon he could have made a bit of difference, especially early when the Eagles did look like they're matching it and they were in. I'm just trying to look
Yeah.
for the inside 50 count for the match. It was 67 to the Suns and 35 for West Coast.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure
Jesus.
35 is the second lowest for the year behind Kangaroos. Got 31
Yeah.
1 week. So yeah, I don't know what to think. It seems
It's
it
hard to
seems like
say.
maybe they were a bit more accurate, a bit more efficient than the scoreboard sort of. I mean, it was still a 37-point win. What would it have been if
But
they weren't so efficient?
yeah, bang on. Could they have lost by a significant amount more if they didn't keep kind of in it until as late as they did, with kind of until the third quarter. Look, we'll move on, and unless you've got any sort of points about the Suns, I mean, I did like a few players.
Yeah, like I thought Jake Rogers was very good. I thought he played a very good
Yep.
game. He looked real. I mean, it is only West Coast, so how much can you give him credit? Smaller bodies,
Yeah.
but yeah. Hopefully, it keeps going. They're looking dangerous as the Suns. I think maybe not this year, but next year they should be. But looking to be Premiership contention, I think they've got all the bits and pieces you need.
Yeah, they had quite the star-studded midfield at this point. Matt Rowell with 13 tackles, Toot Miller with 10, and then first season Will Graham with 11. So really good results there. Yeah, look, other than that, mate, we'll get on to Hawks versus Sydney. I was starting to wrap up my football weekend, getting this sort of stuff ready. Did watch it, just didn't watch it with a keen eye, as yeah, it seemed like Sydney kind of got the best pretty quickly there. What was your thoughts, mate?
Exactly that. Sydney just too good, too tough. They just look so good when they're playing up and about. Sydney, they're just so flashy.
Yeah, they were switching so quickly, and
Yeah,
just moving, and you're not going to hold on, especially when you're a side like Hawthorn and you're kind of in that rebuild phase. It's just it's gonna be too much. But yeah, I mean, I loved what Sydney did today. I think Hawthorn still has things that they can be happy about. They're probably not happy, to be fair, but I think as a general, yeah, there's things to still be content about. You still got Jack Scrimshaw, kind of doing all right there. You've got a few players that played reasonably well. Sicily by himself again,
Jack
did
Shaw
all
was
right.
the one Sam Mitchell was targeting at half time. Wasn't happy with him at all.
I saw that. I don't know if I agree. Like it was one that was doing okay. In terms of like their defensive efforts, Warple, Moore, and Nash were their uh, top tackles at 6, 5, and 5. After that, you get a little bit from Cameron Mackey and Marbia Chol, and then it drops to Wilday at 3. And then there's just not many tackles beyond that. Even Jai Newcomb only got 2, so just not there, unfortunately. And I can see why Dan Mitchell was so upset. Look, any sort of thoughts on this game before we move to All Australians?
Do you think that, like, how safe Sam Mitchell if they don't start improving? Do you reckon they'll give him a few more
I
years?
was gonna
Surely.
leave that for a little bit, but I think he's only got 2 years left
But I would have
if
thought he
he
was safe, but just
keeps
seeing the
that
frustration
up.
and stuff he's showing, it sort of makes you think differently.
Yeah, I agree. I think this year, next year will be a 50-50. Like they either give him the one after that or not. And I think he's got it contracted for another 3 years from memory. So if that's the case, yeah, they might ask him to leave. I'd have to double check if you get a second, double check for me. But yeah, look, we'll move on to the rolling All Australian.
He's out of
Uh,
contract next year, Sam Mitchell.
okay, so it might be next year then. But yeah, we'll move on to the rolling All Australian.
You're Australian. Be Australian.
All right, so this week's All Australian, we've got 2 changes. We've got one in the defence and one in the forward line. We'll start with the defence as we normally do. It's kept pretty solid. Back half back flank is the same with Jeremy McGovern, Ben Mackay, and Blakey. The fullback line does see a change to Tom Stewart, moving out for Dan Houston. Do you think that's a fair assessment? Stewart has been, I mean, a little bit down on some results this year, but he got concussed, and now it's kind of week 2 of that. He'll be back next week. Is it fair of us?
I don't know if it's fair, but I think like Houston's very deserving. I think there's a lot of people around that mark on the halfback flank. If you sort of mix the game, it's going to put you a step back. And I think Stewart's got every chance to come back in, whether it's this week or next
Yeah,
week, and start earning that spot back. He's not far off, but Houston
I
is
can see
also
him taking over
very
for
good.
Iden if not much improves from Iden over the next few weeks. He's just been a little bit down.
I don't
Other
think so,
than
man.
that,
He's had a very good year, I think.
he has. But I
Yeah.
mean, do you go Iden or Stewart? It's hard. Moving on to the midfield, we're gonna just skip over that, but have a quick look there. It's all pretty much the same. Now in the forward line is where we see Dan Flanders disappearing, and we've got Girion Myers coming in. What do you think? Has his kind of crazy score involvements and goal assists deserved him of this spot?
Yeah, he's having a good year. He's been very good. I think Flanders was maybe like he's sort of playing midfield more than half forward. So we wanted to move him out and bring in a proper forward.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I think, look, for now, it's hard to really say people should and shouldn't be in the side. We're starting to get to that point where you're looking at minuscule differences. And yeah, it's harder and harder. Look, we'll move on to our tips for this week, as the interchange is mostly, in fact, all the same. This week, first up, we've got Crows versus Port. I've already said I'm going Crows. What are your thoughts, mate?
I've also locked in the Crows. I think, yeah, Port's
Yep,
injuries plus Crows are starting to find form. Jordan Dawson's starting to look good. I think
he is.
they sort of got form.
I do, and yeah, I agree with you. Moving on to Carlton Collingwood. I put down Carlton, but I'm not sure. What's your thoughts?
I've gone Collingwood, but I did put Carlton down initially first. But yeah, I think Collingwood's going to be too strong. Yeah,
I think
Carlton. Yeah, it's going to be a good game.
both these two sides for me are that like either will just make top four or just miss top four. Because I think
Yeah,
there's a few
I'd
teams right
rather
at that
both
spot.
miss. Let's just hope they
Yeah,
both miss top 8.
yeah. I'm not going to say that because I think we've got a couple Collingwood and Carlton viewers. They're going to do better than St Kilda anyway, so I hope they do well. Move on to the next teams. We've got Giants versus Swans. I've gone Giants. What are your thoughts, mate?
Another good game. It's going to be a cracker. I think I've tipped Sydney. I think Sydney will get it
Yeah,
done.
I look. If it weren't for the fact that I just think the Giants are the best in the league, I would have tipped. Yeah, I would sit there going, I don't know, but I just believe Giants are the best, so I'm gonna go Giants. Look, moving on to the next game, we've got one that will absolutely break my heart if this doesn't go the way I want it to. In St Kilda versus North. If St Kilda
Are you,
can't get it done, it's time to tank. Like it's just
are
pull
you
up the
worried?
rug. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
over on the results we've seen, no, this isn't good enough. Like I know we've potentially got a few players coming in, Paddy Dow, a few others, that sort of stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not. We needed to see better results, and St Kilda needs to win their next three because they've got a couple of easy ones to go 5-5 to really even have a chance. But yeah, this game is the start of that three, and if they don't win it, there's not a chance. So, bit worried. Do you have anybody else winning? Do you have the Kangas beating us?
No, I did have tips in Kilda. I think you guys should get
Okay.
this one done. It'd be nice to get a win.
Oh, bloody hell, so. Moving on to Melbourne and Cats. I've gone Melbourne at home. I think they might be able to run out the Cats. They're obviously known for being a bit older, so hopefully they can spread the legs and get Geelong their first loss. Because there's one team that St Kilda fans aren't the biggest fans of, it's Geelong. So yeah, so I would like to see them lose. But otherwise, I think it'll be close. What's your thoughts, mate?
I've also gone Melbourne. I think they should. I don't know. I just feel like Geelong should lose. Melbourne's going to match up well against them.
I tend to agree. Yeah, I just think unless Jeremy Cameron has an absolute day out, I can't see it really working for the Cats. Eagles versus Bombers, mate. I think this is a danger game, but
Oh,
I have picked the Bombers. It is over in Perth. What are your thoughts?
definitely a danger game. They rested Harley
Yeah,
Reid up just to be ready for us.
yeah, and they nearly got the job done. To be fair, against the Suns over in Gold Coast. So yeah, there's danger written on it for me, mate. But I think you will win. Moving on to the next one, we have got Richmond versus Fremantle in Melbourne. We've got, for me, Fremantle winning. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Tipping Fremantle as well. I think they should be able to come over here and get it done.
Yeah, I just don't see how Richmond can kind of do it, to be honest. Moving on to Dogs versus Hawks. I think we're going to see just flip flops from Dogs for the rest of the year until they decide Bevo's no good. And that means the Dogs win this week. So
Yeah,
I'm going
Hawthorn.
the Dogs. um, yeah, that's my thought process. And yeah, I guess if you're the same, we'll move on to the Lions versus Suns. I've got the Lions finally getting back in, but I think they're starting to do a flip flop situation as well.
This
What's
could
your
be a good
thoughts?
game. Could be a good game. I've also with the Lions, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Suns can come and get it done.
It'd be
And
good.
where would Brisbane be then? That'd be
I
scary.
mean, it like to be honest, right? Like we this is probably the furthest in the season that the Suns have been above Brisbane. ever. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And if they get this done, they might be able to make that the case for the rest of the year, because I just don't see Brisbane doing enough at the moment. They're kind of moving into that position of, do they even make the 8 for me? So they need to do more. I don't see them winning the premiership at this point, and I wonder if they do, and where their kind of higher ups decide to pull the pin for me. But look, it's the end of our review, mate. Thank you very much for the time. We've actually gone a fair bit longer than I expected us to this week.
Yeah, it's been one.
Yeah, definitely. Look, thank you again. Thank you for everybody that watched. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give us a like, leave a comment, suggest whatever you think we could do in the future or improve upon. We're always open to suggestions. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. We'll be back roughly the same time next week. I believe that'll be your last one for a couple of weeks, Kris. Is that right?
Yeah, 2 weeks off after that one. I'll be
Yeah,
away in
nice.
WA.
Nice. Well, you might get I don't know, a couple of weeks of just missing St Kilda, just dominate and come back into the foray. If you leave me alone too long, it might be a whole episode of St Kilda. But yeah, otherwise, thank you for your time, and thank you for everybody that watched. And